Oh, he sounds so beautiful.
I promise we'll be back after our adventures. And we'll have so many more when we reunite.
They are days are but a passing dream. Everlasting though they seem beneath the moon will meet again. No.
One Piece live action, season 2, episode 2. I loved it so much. I got a couple comments on my last video saying that episode 2 was very boring, but don't worry, it picks back up. I loved this even more than episode 1. I found this episode incredibly moving, really funny, and had a lot of depth on the surface as well as a lot of added depth for the manga readers. So just a fair warning for you up front, this was a 10 out of 10 episode for me. In this episode, we had a focus on introducing the Baroque works more widely, both through Garp speaking about the effects they've had on the Marines, as well as being introduced to more of the characters. Robin, we didn't fully know last episode that she was a member of Baroque Works. Now that's been confirmed, and we see that it's a much wider organization. So this larger threat that's going to follow us for a while now is being more properly introduced. We got a ton of humor inside of Laboon with the crew. Great crew dynamics, but we also got so much emphasis on loyalty and on promises made. Laboon's loyalty to his crew and holding on to that promise that he believes his crew will still fulfill, which mirrors Luffy and his promise that he's hanging on to with Shanks and with following Roger's dream that was just re-emphasized last episode. But also Luffy's loyalty is paralleled here with his loyalty to his crew, not being willing to let them go, just as Laboon isn't willing to let his crew go, as well as the loyalty of our crew one to another as they're trying to survive being swallowed by a whale. And Crocus's loyalty, despite not having chosen to be put in this position, it's something that he's taken on, something that he does actually value. He's a grumpy old man and he doesn't want you to know it, but he cares. But he has so much loyalty to Laboon as well. We see so much family in this, in our crew, bringing Laboon in, Crocus being Laboon's family as he's waiting for his crew to return. Just so many things. There's so many things that I thought that this episode did incredibly, but my favorite part was Luffy singing to Laboon. We'll get to it. I just wanted to talk some overall. I loved this episode so much. It didn't seem boring to me. It just felt impactful. Okay, starting with up Reverse Mountain. So this journey was so perilous. You have the rocky sides that we could crash into, the raging sea that it's hard to fight against, all the shipwrecks around us, our whipstaff broke. It is very clear from the start why so few crews actually make it this far, actually make it past this point. I was anxious, knowing full well that we're gonna be just fine. I was so anxious watching this because it doesn't seem like it's possible. It doesn't seem like you can make it up there without being shipwrecked as well. But we get to see the crew really work together. Nami calling out orders of how they need to steer the boat. The crew coming together and trying to work together to steer it. Luffy the whole time is just kind of like having a great time. And then when the whip step breaks, he helps as well. But then that moment of reprieve at the top of the mountain when they get past the hardest part and they're just like, oh, we made it. I love that we got that time of accomplishment and of we did it right before we descend back down, because we're really just gonna have no time once we go back down Reverse Mountain. There's gonna be no time for that reprieve. So we took a couple of minutes to have it here for the crew to say, oh, we actually did this, before they go back down the mountain and for some reason they're having fun. I don't see how, because you could still crash into the sides at any point. That water could still turn you in the wrong direction. Also, there's a whale at the bottom that's gonna eat you. Why are you happy? Luffy cracked me up where he was just like, hey whale, move aside. Like, he's just so casual about it, just like, hey, surely you don't mean to be here, right? Crocus to me Other than the scene that I already said was my favorite scene, Luffy singing to Laboon, Crocus to me is the best part about this episode. He was perfectly cast. Every line he delivered, every look he gave, his entire demeanor, his entire attitude was the epitome of grumpy old man that doesn't want you to think that he cares, but would do anything for you. No, I don't like that stray dog that's come into my house. I wish you would take it away. It's just a nuisance. It's eating all my food that I give it, and it's sleeping on my favorite chair. I wish it would just leave me alone. It's just, I'm stuck with it. No, don't take it away. It's fine. Just leave it there. I'll take care of it. It's fine. And then you catch him napping with the dog on his lap with his arms around it. He's grumpy and he's calloused and he's hardened, but he cares. You see it with how he treats Luffy, where he's like, your crew is dead. Like, he's just going to be honest. He's not going to give you false hope. He's not going to pretend that anything other than what he believes is true is true. He did the same thing with Calico Jack, where the conversation that he has with him comes off, is it Jack? I'm questioning myself. Is this going to be another Tom situation? You see it with the captain of the Rumbar Pirates, where he comes off so terse and rude, and he is terse, but he's just telling him the truth. He's just telling him what he needs to know. This isn't going to end well if you bring a baby whale with you into the Grand Line. If you do this, this is what will happen. It sounds harsh, but it's advice given in kindness, because he could just say nothing and let them all die. Instead, he tells them the truth, and then he lets them make their own decision. He's not going to force anything. And then when they leave a whale on his doorstep and they say, thanks so much for taking care of Laboon for us, he doesn't want that, but he's also not going to not take care of him. There were so many good lines with Crocus as well, like when he says Laboon's name the first time and Luffy goes, you named the whale? And he goes, no, I didn't. He came with that name. One line he says is, I'm not an animal person. I'm not even a people person. I just want to be left alone. And I do think it's true that he wants to be left alone, but I also think it's true what everyone says about him, which is, you're a good man. He is. He wants to be left alone, but he's gonna do what's right. He's gonna do what's right by Laboon, whether that means taking him on because that's the only option. Well, that or abandon him. He's going to go seek out the Rumbar Pirates for himself so that he can come back and tell Laboon the truth, because it would be cruel to let Laboon just keep crashing against that wall, keep hoping when hope is lost. He wants to tell him so that he can move on. It doesn't work. But he's doing things according to what's right for Laboon, what's best for Laboon, not what's most comfortable for him. It's not convenient for him to go seek out the Rumbar Pirates on his own. At one point he says, I'm just what he's stuck with. But he's given so much of his time, so much of his concern, so much of his care into making sure that Laboon doesn't destroy himself. Laboon is lucky to have Crocus. Crocus didn't even like Luffy. Luffy's over here busting down his door and irritating him and not being willing to give up, just like Laboon is unwilling to give up with his crew. And yet, when Luffy throws himself down a mountain to try to convince Laboon to stop crashing against the rock, Crocus is worried about him too. I love him so much. He's such a fantastic character, and he's the character that I was probably the most worried about the adaptation for, even though I was very worried about the adaptation for Laboon as well, because how are you going to make me love a CGI whale? But I was really worried about the adaptation for Crocus because I love manga Crocus so much, and I wanted everything to be the same. As much as I constantly harp on the live action is its own entity, it's doing its own thing, it's not trying to be a perfect remake, it's going to reimagine a lot of stuff, it's going to change a lot of stuff, as long as it's cohesive and done well, you know, I embrace it. I didn't feel that way about Crocus. I'm like, put him in the whale, make him say all the same lines, make him aggravate everybody like crazy, and he was very different in the live action, but he was perfect. The set for Laboon's belly was fantastic. I'm so glad we spent so much time in here. I thought we were going to spend, you know, a scene, a few minutes in here, because I would, you know, you build up a really big set for this if you're going to actually use all of it. I expected them to build a very simple set, go against like one wall of scenery, and then move on. But no, they went all out. and it looked incredible. And I loved this section of it because, again, like I said, a lot of humor. We get to see the crew working together, and we get a lot of those incredible crew interactions that build the characters up so much. Like, we've already gotten so much more of that in this season than we did last, and we got a decent amount of it last season. But Zoro this season has been fantastic. He was a shining point of this episode for me. Oh my goodness, I'm trying to think. It was when Nami said, "You broke it with your big muscles," and he took it as, and she's like, "It's not a compliment," and he's like, not a compliment. He made that giant sword. She said, you can't fix this one with a sword," and he's like, "But maybe I can make a really big sword." When she said it's the whale's uvula, and he's like, "So it's a girl whale." I still hadn't recovered from the big sword comment. And then we're already doing that. I couldn't take it. But Sanji constantly teasing Usopp about the ships being haunted, and like, he was not fussed for a lot of it. He was not fussed, as Usopp was very brave in this episode, by the way, as Usopp is trying to find what they need to fix their ship, and Sanji's just trailing behind him so casually, just like making up lore of when things are the most haunted. But even when Sanji did get really rattled, Usopp was like, "No, I'm not judging you for that. That makes sense to me." That was very upsetting. And when Sanji said, when he refused, when Usopp told him, "Okay, you need to lift up the decaying, rotting arm of the corpse so that I can get to the part that I need," and Sanji's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna do that." Usopp went and he took care of it. Usopp is still very fearful. They haven't taken away his edge of timidity and his edge of everything kind of freaks him out. But at the same time, he will push himself forward. He's not going to run away from what he needs to do. And the introduction of Mr. Nine, oh, it was so good. Him reaching for the corpse, lifting the corpse arm. Ugh. And then Mr. Nine pops out and grabs his arm, and you think it's a corpse, you don't know what's going on, and then he ends up just being the villain that's going to steal their ship. But it's a great introduction for Vivi, especially. She's so ruthless in how she attacks Nami. She's so, like, all of her dialogue is delivered with this bite to it of someone who is fighting for her life, for her country's life, someone who is willing to do things that normally she wouldn't do. But we don't know that at this point. At this point, all we know is that she is fighting to get out of the situation that she's in, and she will cut throats. She will steal ships. She'll do anything just to get out of Laboon and get back to whatever it is that she wants to be doing. So the scene when the whole team is working together to try to save Usopp when he's fallen, and it doesn't look like they're going to be able to solve it, which, by the way, good job, Zoro, using your big sword at first. That was smart thinking. It didn't work, but I'm proud of you. You got to use it. It looks like they're not gonna make it, and then Vivi saves them, and it's like, but why? But why did she save them? She's been trying to steal their ship. It looks like she's willing to kill them if you let her at it, yet when she gets herself free, she rescues them? What is this about her character? Is there some goodness to her? Is there an agenda here? What are her intentions? What is behind all of this? So it's a great setup of her as a villain, but it's also a really great early play to show that she is good. And when Luffy trusts her, and when later on we're going to risk a lot to help her, we can see from the beginning, though we see her, being ruthless out of desperation, we also from the beginning see there's something more going on here. Now, in the midst of all this, we're also getting scenes with Garp and Smoker, and we get more characterization for Smoker. Once again, even though Garp is saying, they're going up Reverse Mountain, very few pirates make it through this, and we understand why that is. And he's like, just let them go. They're going to perish, just like everyone else, nearly everyone else does. And we see that Smoker really isn't underestimating Luffy, which is great because in this series, a lot of villains, at least in the manga, a lot of the villains end up underestimating Luffy, and that's their undoing. And Smoker is not underestimating him. Smoker sees the tenacity that's in Luffy. He sees that he's the type of person that looks death in the face and laughs, and he knows that if something happens on Reverse Mountain, Luffy will figure it out. He's gonna fight to the bitter end. He's going to keep going, and he's going to keep laughing, and Smoker needs to keep chasing him. He cannot underestimate him, which is great trait for the main person pursuing Luffy. Like, that's a great trait for him to have. And it's also super fascinating to me that the way they played this is that Garp said, no, you can't go chase Luffy. We have, everything's in shambles. Alabasta is a mess. The princess is missing. A bunch of bad things are happening. And he's, oh, we're right. He said the Revolutionary Army is gaining numbers and their leader, and Smoker says, was in Logtown and assisted Luffy. And that's when Garp changes. That's when Garp is no longer saying, you can't do it. And instead he's saying, okay, you can do it, but I'm going to prepare you for Baroque works. And if you're going, you need to bring one of them back alive. So this is great because it adds more intrigue. What is it about Dragon? I was trying to remember if Dragon's name had been used in episode 1. It had. It doesn't matter. This is spoilers. What is it about Dragon that has Garp's interest like that he would just change? What is it that is going on in Alabasta, and will we get answers for what all he's talking about here? What is the Revolutionary Army? And it also gives us an introduction to who the Baroque works are and how widespread their mayhem is. So we've been introduced to Baroque works through Robin. We saw her be tenacious. We saw her be tenacious. We saw her be vicious and ruthless. And now we understand that she's a member of Baroque works. We've now seen Vivi and Mr. Nine, who are seemingly quite ruthless, okay? They're a part of Baroque works, but now through Garp we're seeing something far more wide scale, the damage that they do. So even though the Garp Smoker section is much slower, to me, it adds a ton of information that is really useful, as well as a lot of intrigue. Oh, and I did love the scene where Kobe instills into Shigi what Garp has instilled in him, which is you have to figure out what justice means to you, and you have to follow your dreams. Pursue that, which means that Tashigi is not going to be kind of pushed aside by Smoker. She's going to stand up to him and demand that she goes along so that she can pursue Zoro. And Smoker, even though he has a tendency to push her aside, to view her as like a silly girl, when she does stand up to him, he's like, okay, fine, let's see what you got. Back to Brook. The Binks Sake flashback. Oh, it was incredible. I loved listening to Binks Sake being sung in live action with the crew, the joy that the crew had. Brook! We got to see young Brook singing to Laboon. Oh, he sounded so good. You can see the love that the crew has for Laboon. I know I already talked about the flashback a little bit when I was talking about Crocus, but not just Brook, but also Calico. Yorkie? They would give anything for him, and that kind of love is the kind of love that would lead a Laboon, that would lead an animal to stay loyal, to be waiting for them to come home. Boy, I really loved the line when Luffy's concerned and Crocus is explaining he's becoming a lot less sensitive to the sleep droughts that I'm making, the tranquilizers. Golly. He's becoming a lot less sensitive to the tranquilizers that I'm making, and he's going to end up killing himself doing this. And Luffy says there's got to be a way to reason with him. There's got to be a way to convince him that his crew's not coming back. And Crocus turns to Luffy and says, you wouldn't accept it? It's such a quick line, and he moves on right away, but that parallel between these two and that understanding that now is instilled in Luffy of what's happening with Laboon that makes Luffy relate to Laboon instead of try to fight against him or change him. Like I said, I was worried about the depiction of Laboon in this because, again, like, how are you gonna make me get attached to this whale? I mean, the manga could do it, but it would be a little bit harder, I would think, with the live action. But it's all the elements around Laboon especially that make it work. I think it's not necessarily Laboon in the live action, but it's the old crew and their love for him, and it's Luffy's connection with him, and it's Crocus's loyalty to him that makes it work in the live action and makes me care. It's Luffy not attacking Laboon, but instead singing Binks Sake to him. It's Luffy relating to Laboon of the memory that he has, the hope that he's waiting for, the dream that he has, the nakama that he won't give up on. And as Luffy is singing and dancing, he's striking the Nika pose. I love it so much. It's such a beautiful scene because I'm already very attached to the Binks Sake song, so hearing Luffy sing it is incredible. But hearing him sing it to Laboon, to develop that kinship with him and to make Laboon trust him. And at the same time, giving us this little moment for the readers that we can see, there it is, that's the Nika pose. This song that he's singing to Laboon, it means so much to Laboon, and it means so much to us. This is one of those episodes that I'm just like, I text my friend, who's live action only, after I watched the episode, and I said, I am dying to hear your thoughts because there's so much wrapped up in I didn't say what, but in this episode that makes it especially emotional to me, but I said to manga readers. I don't know how you feel, but that's how I feel. And I was curious if it would land the same way with her, and she hasn't, I don't think she's watched it yet. No, she hasn't texted me anyway. Anyway, there was a line that said, you need people who stay. And Crocus stayed for Laboon. And now Luffy has pledged himself to come back to Laboon as well. He's given him something to hope for. He's made him a new promise to wait for, thereby protecting him. But also, we know that when he does eventually return to Laboon, he's also bringing back Brook. Both of the crews that Laboon has been waiting for will return to him. And Crocus even noted that he knew Roger, and he likened Luffy to Roger. Buggy mentioned, well, kind of alluded to knowing Roger in episode 1. Crocus has done so in episode 2. I love it. Overall, there's so much more vulnerability in the crew in this season as well. Not just in Usopp, which we saw that in last season, but in this season, Nami has a lot more insecurity to her. We're actually seeing her kind of feel unsure about her navigation skills. She did at the beginning of the episode where she's like, I'm pretty sure this is what we have to do. I think I've navigated it so that we'll make it. And then once they do go through the Grand Line and they do start seeing people that give them a real run for their money, and they talk about the log pose, which that was another really funny scene. They talk about the log pose, and Nami is realizing how in over her head she is, how much she doesn't know, and she starts questioning herself. And that vulnerability from Nami is something that we didn't see before, and it's something that I think it makes them more human and more grounded and more sympathetic. We saw that from Nami in this episode. We'll see it in Zoro in the next episode, because I have already watched episode 3. I haven't watched beyond episode 3 yet, but we are going to watch episodes 4 through the end on Friday. We're doing a big sprint, a big marathon, so hang out with me on Patreon if you want to, or just wait for the videos, because there will be a video for every episode, don't worry. My point is, I really appreciate this vulnerability that we're seeing from the crew. I think that it adds a lot to them. This episode, I think, was a lot closer to the Straw Hats and to the characters that we're focusing on in this episode. It's a lot more of a close-knit episode, whereas last one we were doing so many things and viewing a lot of different characters. This one was a lot more stationary. I don't know what word I'm looking for here. It's a closer episode. It's not as broad, yet it still broadens a lot of things by introducing Baroque works proper and showing us how great of a threat they are before we move forward. I thought it was excellent. I thought it hit the emotional beats so well, while deepening our crew, deepening their connection and relationship with each other and our understanding of that, and giving us a lot to look forward to. I loved this episode. 10 out of 10. No complaints. Absolutely loved it. Please chat with me more in the comments. Let me know what you thought of the episode. What did you love? What did you not love? Have you already watched the entire season? Please chat with me more there. I would love to continue discussing with you. I'll see you again soon. Bye.